So far in this module, we've talked about adding and subtracting polynomials. Now what we'd really like to do is multiply polynomials. And in order to do that, we're going to go through some exponent rules. So Unit 3 is all about dealing with exponents. So if you're multiplying exponents, let's think about that. We know y cubed, the exponent means take whatever is your base, so the big number on the left, and multiply it by itself that many times. So y cubed means y times y times y. So now let's think if you've got y cubed times y to the 5, well, y cubed is y times y times y to the 5 means y multiplied by itself 5 times. So that's really what we're doing. And that means we're multiplying y by itself 8 times. So we end up with y to the power of 8. So in other words, when you're multiplying exponents, what you end up doing is you add those exponents together. So y cubed times y to the 5, we end up adding those two exponents to get to our y to the 8. So for example, if we have b to the 5 times b to the 2, then we're going to add those exponents to get b to the 7. Okay, note that they have to have the same base. In this next example, we've got a to the 7 times a to the 2, so we add those exponents together to get a to the 9. And then take a look at the third example. So here you have a squared multiplied by b squared. If you want, you can get rid of the dot that means multiply, but you can't really simplify it all. You can't do anything because they are different bases, so you can't add those exponents. Okay, so that's multiplying. If you're multiplying exponents with the same base, you add the exponents. Division is kind of the opposite. So let's think about division. Here we have y5 divided by y to the power of 3. So y to the 5 means y multiplied by itself 5 times. Y to the 3 is y multiplied by itself 3 times. And you can see we can cancel out 3 of those y's. Remember, we would just replace them with ones, and so then we would get y times y, which is y squared. Well, take a look at what we actually did there. And what you'll see is we end up subtracting our exponents. So if you have y5 over y to the 3, you can think of it as y to the 5 minus 3, and you get y squared. So a few examples of those. So we've got a to the 9 over a to the 5. You would subtract those two exponents to end up with a to the 4. Next, we have the same thing just written in a different form. So y to the 12 divided by y to the 5. Remember, you can write that like this if you want. And that means we subtract those exponents and end up with an answer of y to the 7. And last example there, we've got a squared over b squared. There's no further simplification possible because those are different bases. Okay, so far we've talked about multiplying with exponents. You want to add the exponents together with the same base. And dividing with exponents, if they have the same base, you can subtract those exponents. The last thing we're going to talk about is multiplying powers of powers. So brackets are really important in helping you denote and figure out what's going on here. So consider 3y squared. That squared only applies to what's immediately to its left. So only the y is being squared here, which means we could write that as 3 times y times y. In B, now we have brackets. The brackets indicate that everything in those brackets is being squared. So 3y squared means 3y multiplied by itself. So 3y times 3y. And that ends up giving us 3 times 3 gives us the 9. Y times y gives us the y squared. So we get 9y squared. Okay. All right. When you have powers of powers, what happens? Well, if we have y cubed or y to the power of 3 that's then being squared, like we do here, that means y3 multiplied by itself. So y cubed or y to the power of 3 times y to the power of 3. And that gives us an answer of y to the power of 6. So when you're multiplying powers by powers, we multiply the exponents. So y cubed times 2, or y cubed squared, gives us y to the 6 down here when we multiply those exponents. And I'm just going to note, let's just say compare to, so these are powers of powers. If you see powers of powers, you're going to multiply. But note we could have y cubed times y squared, and that is y to the power of 5. So note the difference here. In one, we're multiplying two variables together that have exponents. That means we add, so we're adding exponents. In the other example, where we've got y to the power of 3 then squared, here you're multiplying because you have powers of powers. Okay, so note the difference. Okay, let's take a look at a few of these examples and then you can try some of your own. So we've got b squared, which is then squared. We're going to multiply those exponents then to give us b to the power of 4. In example B here, we've got y to the power of 4, which is then squared. So we multiply those together to end up with y to the power of 8. And last one, a trickier example here. You have 4y to the power of 4. Note the brackets so that entire thing is being squared. So you want to you want to distribute out that exponent then, since both things in the brackets are being squared. So that would be 4 squared times y to the power of 4 squared, which gives us the 16y to the power of 8. All right, so go ahead and pause this video, try these exercises, and then come on back and you can double check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to try these. Remember plain n is like n to the power of 1. We're multiplying variables with exponents, so we're going to add those exponents together, and that ends up giving us n to the power of 6. In B, we're going to add those exponents together to get m to the power of 15. In C, we have 3 to add, so it's going to be y to the power of 2 plus 4 gives us 6, plus another 3 gives us 9. And in the last one, we can't simplify. No simplification possible. Because they're different bases, we can't add those exponents together. They're from different things. Okay. Next, we want to do some division. This first one, I like to write it with the bar. So that's b to the power of 5 over b squared. That means we are subtracting exponents because we're dividing, and that gives us an answer of b to the power of 3. Okay, next one, once again, we're dividing exponents, so we're going to subtract, and we get x to the power of 5. The next one, we would get x to the power of 1, which we can just write as x. And that last one, we cannot simplify. Maybe I'll just write cannot simplify. Okay, or no simplification possible. Because they're different bases. All right. Next, we have some powers of powers that we're multiplying. So when we have powers of powers, we multiply our exponents. So that first one would be n to the power of 2 times 6, which gives us n to the power of 12. The next one, when we multiply, we would get y to the power of 6. In C, remember to distribute out that exponent because it applies to the 2 and the y squared. So we would have 2 to the power of 2 times y squared squared. And that gives us 4y to the power of 4. Okay, and next one, same thing. We have to distribute out that exponent. And so we get 2 to the power of 3 times y squared to the power of 3. And be careful, lots of students want to write 6 for 2 to the power of 3 and think multiply, but 2 to the power of 3 means 2 times 2 times 2, or you can use your calculator, 2 to the power of 3, to get an answer of 8. So we get 8y to the power of 6.